Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Bobby Betts back in the house, logging in for another weekend of some UFC action. Coming off 3 consecutive weekends in the green, looking to make it a 4th with UFC Fight Night, Walker versus Hill. Cards looking decent, kind of got decimated by injuries. We got a lot of replacements, but like I always say, there's always something to bet. So for this video, I'm going to be going through the early prelims all the way up through the main card, go over the main event. And for this particular video, we're going to try something new. I'm going to give you my full card review, and then at the end, I am going to give you my picks. This is not financial advice. Disclaimer, okay? This is just what I'm betting personally. If you choose to tell me, that is your decision. I will say that I've been in the green the last 3 weekends, so maybe not a bad idea. But again, not financial advice. So, all-inclusive video. So for all of you out there that have a short attention span, we'll get it all done in one shot. I'll give you my clear and concise analysis, and then we can jump right into it. So we'll start off with the first fight of the night, which is going to be Mario Bautista versus Jay Perrin. Again, Mario Bautista's heavy favorite, minus 435 against Jay Perrin, who's making his UFC debut. Really like Mario Bautista in this fight. Against Miles Johns, knocked him out with a flying knee and then ground and pound. I mean, against Jinsu Sun, which was a phenomenal fight. I'm not sure if that got fight of the night, but that was just a back and forth, guys trading in the pocket. He ended up winning that by decision. The only thing that really worries me about him is he's coming off of a knockout loss. I believe first knockout of his career. So I'm worried about him being a little timid, but against Jay Perrin, kind of the right guy to, kind of ease back into things. Jay Perrin, kind of jack of all trades, master of none, kind of average everywhere, doesn't throw a ton of volume. When he does feel comfortable throwing his hands, not a ton of great boxing combinations, a little bit of life, but not a lot of pop. Wrestling's decent, not great. And, on the regional scene against the fight, he fought a pretty decent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. He was able to grind out a win, but it was 50-50. I really think he lost that fight. I was really surprised that he ended up getting the UD victory in that one. Got taken down a couple of times, and honestly, I just think Mario Bautista is going to be able to overwhelm him with volume and really take the fight wherever he wants to take it. But I will say Jay Perrin is a grinder. So if you weren't able to get Bautista in on a parlay, around minus 350 when he opened up, if it's in the 400s now, probably worth staying away from, to be honest with you. So again, going with Mario Bautista there. All right, next fight up, we got Jonathan Pearce versus Christian Rodriguez. Again, Christian Rodriguez undefeated, making his UFC debut. Jonathan Pearce coming off some solid wins against Omar Morales. So, again, Jonathan Pearce is going to be a heavy favorite in this one. Another guy, minus 435, solely because Christian Rodriguez, 1, is making his UFC debut. 2, he's going to be fighting this one up a weight class against Pearce. So Pearce not only is going to have the advantage in the wrestling, like he always does, but he's also going to have a strength advantage, which honestly is going to make him a heavy favorite. I tend to agree with that line. I don't see much value in Christian Rodriguez. Rodriguez is a nice prospect coming out of Rufus Sport, 7-0. Very well-rounded game on the feet. Looks very nice, very crisp and fast. Decent on the ground, but again, I don't think he's going to have the pop up a weight class to put Pearce out, and I don't think he's going to be able to out-wrestle Jonathan Pearce. I mean, Omar Morales wasn't able to. He got a good ground and pound win against Kai Kamaka. I mean, Pearce is on a little bit of a heater right now, and again, him having the better wrestling and being the stronger guy, it's a recipe for a win. So, pretty easy pick there going with Jonathan Pearce. Again, going to be tough to play him unless you got him early when he started off, in the mid minus 350s. But, minus 435, you're looking at, 4-1, only going up closer to 5-1. It's going to be kind of tough. All right, moving on. We got Jesse Strader versus Chad Anhelinger. I'm staying away from this one. Anhelinger is a favorite at minus 240. Strader's plus 180. Honestly, if you wanted to take a flyer on Strader, this is probably the fight. I'm staying away from it because I don't like Strader. I don't like, particularly, he's a boxing heavy guy. He's going to want to get in there and bang it out with you. But what worries me about him is he goes to the body a lot, which is normally a good thing. But when he drops down to go to the body, he throws multiple body hooks and he just leaves his chin up, straight up in the air to get countered with an overhand. And Anhelinger, a reason I would normally like someone against Jesse Strader, like an Anhelinger, who, is a pressure fighter. But in the fights, when you watch Chad Anhelinger, he fought in the Contender Series against a pretty decent opponent, a Russian guy with a heavy wrestling base. And Anhelinger, honestly, looked decent on the ground. He was able to reverse position and get on top, and when he was rolling around, but he didn't go for any shots himself. And on the feet, he's a pressure fighter, but he doesn't throw a lot of volume. He doesn't really throw any combination. He's just in your face. He wants to counter strike all the time. And normally I would say that would play into his game plan against Jesse Strader, because Strader's going to be the one initiating the exchanges, but it just seemed like he's just a little bit too timid. So I worry about Strader being able to connect with Anhelinger early, putting him out, and Anhelinger, making his UFC debut. I don't know how he's going to be as far as, timidness. But if Anhelinger could take it to the ground, which unfortunately in all of his fights, I was looking for a reason for him to take someone down and, use his wrestling and that good, grappling base that he showed in the Contender Series. But he doesn't go for any takedowns, which, it's the obvious game plan against Jesse Strader. So if you're not showing me that you can't, I didn't even see him shoot once in the 2 fights that I watched. Granted, one was a finish and the other one was the Contender Series. But even in the Contender Series, it was all the wrestling that he done, all the grappling that he done was, on the ground, defensively. But he did turn it into offense. So if it goes to the ground, he's going to win the fight. But I worry about Jesse Strader being able to, stand. The longer it stays on the feet, the better a chance Jesse Strader has. But he could get knocked out too. Honestly, it's just too much of a wild card in my opinion. If you want to take a flyer on Strader, you can. Just not too confident in Chad Anhelinger. All right, moving on. But I do have Chad Anhelinger. If I were to bet it, gun to my head, Anhelinger, probably the safer play. More paths to victory than Strader. Moving on, we got Diana Belbita versus Gloria DePaula. The line's pretty close on this. Belbita's kind of starting to pull away. She opened a minus 105. She's up to a minus 130. Gloria DePaula is slight underdog at plus 105. Probably moving up closer to 115 at this point. I'm going to take Diana Belbita, but honestly, it's women's MMA. It's going to be an odd fight. Belbita shows good stand-up, but DePaula, if she lands a couple of takedowns and kind of mixes it up, she very well could win a decision. Honestly, I worry about Belbita because you look at some of her previous fights when she's been favored. She ended up finding a way to lose those fights. I think she got caught in an armbar. Just not too confident in that fight. I'm staying clear away from this fight. If you want to bet it, you can bet Belbita. That's who I'm going to take, but I'm honestly have no confidence in that fight. Gloria DePaula hasn't really shown anyone anything in her fights in the UFC. She's 5-4. Belbita, like I said, should have the upper hand on the feet, be able to poke her more, but again, she gets taken down far too often for my liking. And if DePaula lands a couple, gets some ride time, very easily could win that fight. So staying away from it, but if I had to pick it, Diana Belbita. Moving on, we got Skelly versus Mark Striegl. This is an interesting fight. Skelly up to minus 200, open minus 180. Mark Striegl coming in. Probably grab him at plus money right around plus 130. But it's an interesting matchup because you got Striegl and Skelly, who both are awful on the feet. They offer nothing as far as stand-up is concerned. But they're both good in grappling. They're both good on the ground. And Striegel's, a power wrestler. That's his go-to. That's what he's going to go. He's going to shoot powerful double leg takedowns, and he's going to be able to get Skelly down. But Skelly, I'm going with Skelly on this one because he's far more superior on the ground than Striegl as far as his grappling and his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Okay? He's going to be able to roll. He's not going to stay. He's going to chain together submissions, and I think ultimately it's going to wear Striegl down. He's going to be shooting these power shots all the time. He's going to be trying to ride Skelly out. I'm not worried about Striegl connecting with Chad Skelly because in all of his fights, his stand-up is awful. He's only one shot. I'm taking this one mobile because I got to get in my face. Got to get in your face for this one. So with Striegl, again, he's very frustrating because on the feet, just one shot. Nothing but one shot. Offerings, no combos put together. They say he's been working his Muay Thai, but in every fight you see the same thing. It's just poke, poke, poke. Every now and again he throws a 1-2. Okay, Skelly, honestly, he's going to engage with him on the feet, but honestly he's going to want to take the fight to the ground. And I think, like I alluded to before, Skelly ultimately is going to be able to chain together submissions and make Striegl work on the ground. And I've seen Striegl get tired in later rounds. You look at his body type, very muscular dude. And those dudes literally, when you're throwing these powerful strikes, they're one strikes and they're not very accurate, but it takes a lot of effort to throw them. So against, he had a fight and won championship on a guy short notice, Reese McLaren. Granted, it was 2015. It's been a while, but in that fight, it's the same thing that you saw when he fought Soichi Shimizuji in 2019. His stand-up hasn't evolved since then. He's just throwing these jabs. He's throwing 1-2s. He's trying to strike to clinch. And when he gets you down to the ground, people are able to get back up. So, I mean, with Skelly, like I said, he's going to tire out. And against Reese McLaren, in the third round, McLaren ends up getting a rear naked choke because Striegl just tired himself out from taking him down so many times. McLaren gets back up, pokes him a few times on the feet, and then eventually he gets so tired, McLaren grabs a guillotine, rolls around, reverses position, ends up getting his hooks in, and all of a sudden gets a rear naked choke. So against that one, I like Skelly because I really think he's going to be able to wear him down. I think he's going to end up catching him in either a submission or he's just going to be so active and get on top. And Striegel's going to give up in the second and third round. He's going to win a decision. So going with Chaz Skelly on that one. Moving on, Jessica Rose Clark versus Stephanie Egger. Jessica Rose Clark coming in minus 200. Egger, plus in the plus 130 range at this point. Money coming in on Jessica Rose Clark, and I'd have to agree with it. I think she's the more well-rounded fighter. Egger, strong judo background, the throws, the wrestling, that's kind of her game, but Jessica Rose Clark in her own right is good in that aspect and also is going to have a heavy advantage on the feet. So not much more I have to say about that. Going with Jessica Rose Clark against Stephanie Egger. Moving on, Gabriel Benitez versus David Onama. This is another interesting fight. I really like the looks of this one for David Onama. So normally, I'm a big fan of Gabriel Benitez in certain situations. In this one, really not a good matchup for him. Benitez wants to stay at distance. He wants to be able to throw his leg kicks. He wants to throw some boxing combinations, but he offers a lot of straight punches. So again, he wants to keep the fight at distance and not really that great when distance is closed on him. And I think that's what's going to happen with David Onama, who had a great showing against Mason Jones? God, I always forget their last name. Yeah, Mason Jones. He ended up losing the decision that fight, but he was up a weight class, and Mason Jones is one tough customer with an endless gas tank and just well-rounded and a hell of a chin. And Onama ended up losing 29-28, but he stole a round from Mason Jones, and every round was competitive. I had Mason Jones heavily in that fight, and honestly, I can say I was sweating it out at the end. For a short notice fight, up a weight class, David Onama looked phenomenal, and I think he's going to go out and he's going to crowd space against Gabriel Benitez, and he's going to be able to either finish him off or get a pretty clear and unanimous decision victory. He can take Gabriel Benitez to the mat if he wants. Benitez doesn't offer too much in the way of takedown defense, and I think Onama, as long as he doesn't stay at distance and isn't afraid to get inside on Benitez, he's going to have a lot of success. So going with David Onama on that one. Moving on, we got the main card, first fight. We got Joaquin Buckley versus Razak Alhassan. This is another tough fight. It's the first fight on the main card for a reason because these guys are just going to bang it out and one of them is going to end up on the canvas. That's honestly the one true outcome that I see in this fight. I'm going to go with Joaquin Buckley on it because Buckley offers more paths to victory than Alhassan. Alhassan has one thing and one thing only, that is a first-round knockout. Not a second, not a third, a first-round knockout. Joaquin Buckley can knock you out. He does have heavy hands, but again, he can grind you out on the cage. He can wrestle Alhassan if he's smart. Alhassan has no ground game, can't wrestle. Joaquin Buckley can wrestle a little bit. At the very least, he can control you up against the cage and make you work in the clinch. And that's what I like about Buckley. Buckley hopefully fights smart. He kind of fell in love with the KO after that highlight reel, two-touch kick, KO, whatever you call that move against Impic. Started going out with reckless abandon and ended up catching a head kick against DeChirico and got knocked out. But it really hasn't deterred him. He came back in his next fight and knocked the guy's block off. But if he's smart, he does have to be smart against Alhassan. He can't leave his chin up in the air. He can't leave his chin open, especially early. If he's smart, he grinds him down a little bit because Alhassan doesn't have much of a gas tank. We know this from the Mounir Laziz fight. We know this from the Jacob Malkoun fight. So we need Buckley to grind him down a little bit. Cook him to the bone. A little Bryce Mitchell-esque saying there. And then finish him off. He could do that. If he tires him out, he can finish him off on the feet. and just suck Alhassan dry, the power, finish him off on the feet. That's the game plan. That's why we like Buckley. That's why we're going with Buckley in this fight. Could it come out and could Buckley get knocked out in the first minute of the fight? Absolutely could happen. But I got to go with the guy who has more ways to win than the guy that has one outcome that everyone and their mother's uncle knows in the building. Only game plan. Go out. Going to try and land a right hand, knock him stone cold. That's all Alhassan's got. So I like Buckley. Moving on, Jim Miller versus Nicholas Motta. Interesting fight because Nicholas Motta is a great prospect coming up, 12-3. Awesome contender series fight against a tough opponent. He's got excellent stand-up. Honestly, he is on the feet. It's going to be tough to beat Nicholas Motta. Jim Miller, he's not a guy that wants to stand on the feet, though. He's a guy that, obviously wants to take the fight to the ground. He wants to wrestle you, wants to submit you. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game, always high level, always on another level with Jim Miller. However, I got Nicholas Motta in this fight. Jim Miller, getting a little bit old, has been able to, chain together some wins because he's kind of off and on, but, he pops out and, is the ultimate litmus test, honestly, for guys to see if you are the real deal is Jim Miller, Roosevelt Roberts, at least on the ground. He's a good test to see, do you have what it takes in the UFC to not get submitted and at least keep it on the feet? Or if you're going to roll with me, do you have what it takes to, be able to sweep, get the top position, and really win a fight on the ground? It's going to be hard to submit Jim Miller. Not too many people do that. But I think in this one, Motta's probably going to just box Jim Miller right out of the arena. Honestly, I think Jim Miller's not going to be able to get the fight to the ground. And Motta's just going to keep it on the feet, and he's just going to tag Jim Miller multiple times. I mean, it's tough to knock Jim Miller out because he's a tough customer. Again, it's the guy who's been sticking around since, God knows how long, man. Like early 2000s, not early 2000s, late 2000s. Honestly, he's a legend. But I really think Nicholas Motta, just his stand-up, is just far superior than Jim Miller. He's the faster fighter. He's the younger guy. He fights with a controlled, aggressive style, and I think he's going to give Jim Miller nightmares. So I'm going with Motta on that one. Moving on, we got Parker Porter versus Alan Baudot. Parker Porter minus 250 and going up. Baudot, man, he's kind of a mess, man. And knocked out by Rodrigo Nascimento. It ended up being called a no contest because Nascimento popped for something stupid. But again, Baudot, man, you go back and look at some of the YouTube videos. Most of them are him getting just starched. Dolce Langiambula and EFC took this dude's chin home and adopted it as a pet. It was just awful. He rushed in like the first 17 seconds of the fight and just lands Langiambula and lands one right on his chin, and he just flatlines him. Just a wild knockout. I don't have any faith in Alan Baudot anywhere in this fight. I'm going with Parker Porter to show that he's at least a more headsy fighter. He might not be the greatest heavyweight in the world, but he beat Chase Sherman. He's been able to beat guys. The guy he fought before Chase Sherman, Josh Parisian, was a pretty heavy wrestling-based guy, and he was able to wear him down and win a unanimous decision. Honestly, in this one, I'm not putting him in any of my parlays, no straight bets, but I do have a cheeky prop for Parker Porter that I'm probably going to play against Alan Baudot, because Alan Baudot, man, I really don't like his game anywhere. On the feet, he's willing to bang, but he just leaves himself wide open, man. And he doesn't have knockout power. He doesn't have quick hands. His record could easily be 6-4. And against, Langiambula's in the UFC now, but against some subpar competition, not great competition. His signature win, you could say, is a guy who was 16-9 going into that fight. An old Asian, grizzled vet, and that was years ago. So again, Parker Porter's my pick on this one, fairly easily. Not going to put it because it's heavyweights in any type of parlay, because there's always that, you always got the puncher's chance. But like I said, there's a cheeky prop play that we'll go over at the end of this card and one of my picks. So moving on to the co-main event, which is Kyle Daukus versus Jamie Pickett. Really like Kyle Daukus in this fight. It opened at minus 225, which I thought was a steal. He's up closer to minus 290, going on minus 300. And there's just too many weapons and too well-rounded for Jamie Pickett, who I'll be honest with you, Jamie Pickett has proven me wrong in certain situations. You go back and look at the Joseph Holm fight. I really thought Joseph Holmes was going to be able to control that fight, and Jamie Pickett controlled Joseph Holmes the entire time, weared him down, probably could have finished him, but, at the end of the day, you need that win bonus. You need to double your money, so I don't blame him. He did his best, but, Jamie Pickett, I still think that he is reckless, and on the feet, he has the opportunity to knock anyone out because he's reckless, and if he touches you at the right time, he's going to swarm you. But again, there really isn't much of a gauge to know when someone's hurt with Jamie Pickett. It's like he kind of picks his time, and it's like, all right, I'm going to go, and then I'm going to back off, and then I'm going to pick another time to go, and then I'm going to back off. Kyle Daukus isn't a guy who's afraid to get in your face and pressure you back, push you back, and not let you control the fight. He's going to wear Pickett down. He's going to get him up against the fence. He's going to make him fight in the clinch. He's going to tire him out, and he's going to try to get him down to the ground. And I think Kyle Daukus is eventually going to get him down to the ground, and I think that's when he's going to put on some of his best work is on the ground. He's just got a far superior ground game compared to Jamie Pickett. Jamie Pickett, you don't really see too much of him on the ground. Granted, I have seen him defend takedowns well, but I think Kyle Daukus, you're just looking at a guy who's going to get you in the clinch up against the cage and just kind of work you, drop down, grab a double leg, try to grasp the hands, and then if that doesn't work, work his way back up, keep it in the clinch, and just do this grindy way to get you down on the ground. And then as soon as he gets you down on the ground, he's going to be able to hold you there. He's going to put a hook in. He's got good work on the ground. So really like Kyle Daukus in this fight against Jamie Pickett. I don't really see a way that Jamie Pickett can win this fight outside of a Hail Mary knockout in the first round. Moving on to the main event, we got Johnny Walker versus Jamal Hill. Johnny Walker, I've never been a huge fan of Johnny Walker. He started off hot in the UFC, strung together some nice wins, but against superior competition, Johnny Walker has floundered and kind of showed his true colors. He's a guy who leaves his chin wide open, and against Corey Anderson just found it in round one. Knocked him clear out of the building. Against Nikita Krylov, he lost a decision. Again, that was another pretty boring fight as far as a unanimous decision. Then he goes against Ryan Spahn and should have got knocked out in that fight. It was actually really surprising because Walker goes in to chop the legs and he has his hands down and Spahn notices it and there's this nice lead left hook and hits him right on the jaw, and Walker goes flat, like he's a rag doll, and he's down on the ground, and Spahn's not able to finish him off. Like, he should have just stayed on top of him and tried to keep pounding away, but it ended up being more of like trying to control him with the grappling. He ended up getting back up to his feet. The round ends, and then in the beginning of round two, they both land, and Walker goes down again. But Spahn's a little stunned, and then Walker ends up finishing Spahn off with elbows when Spahn tries to shoot, which I thought was a stupid decision. He should have kept it on the feet, but whatever. So he hammers him on the side of the head with elbows, catches him on the temple, he goes down. Crazy fight, good fight, but again, against Thiago Santos, another boring fight. Johnny Walker trying to be in and out, trying to touch his way to a decision, and Santos ends up, throwing more meaningful shots. Johnny Walker just pitter-pattering. It's just bizarre. It was like the complete opposite of what every Johnny Walker fight was up until the Corey Anderson fight. Like, not reckless, not going in, not going for the kill. It was really just trying to, touch butt his way into a decision, and Santos ended up winning, which was phenomenal because it was just BS. But against Jamal Hill's far superior to Johnny Walker, and Johnny Walker's just, a big, and I'll give him credit, athletic dude, but he doesn't use his athleticism, and he's not a very smart fighter. Like I said, like, he goes in to chop the legs and leaves his hands down. Like, a guy like Ryan Spahn, a guy like Jamal Hill is going to be able to notice that and get that read, and he's going to be able to find those openings, especially Jamal Hill, who's, a phenomenal stand-up boxer in his own right. You look against OSP, just picked OSP apart, wasn't even close in that fight, ended up getting the finish in the second round. A lot of his fights, against Paul Craig's kind of a specialist. I really kind of throw that one out because Paul Craig, he's got really good jiu-jitsu, so you're going to be, if you're not careful against him, you can easily get caught in a position like Hill did. He's kind of in that triangle, it's almost like that position that he was in, that like triangle armbar and also getting punched in the face. It's like, when you're playing Connect 4 and the guy's got no matter where you put your chip, the guy's going to win. He's going to connect 4 on you. And it's just like, you're screwed. It's like Craig's either going to break his arm, he's going to beat his face in, or he's going to choke him out. Like, it's just like, it was a tough position to be in. But anyway, I think Jamal Hill, far superior striker to Johnny Walker. And he's not going to be like Span. He's not going to be like these guys that find themselves in these like really awkward clinch positions where Walker's got, a Muay Thai clinch around his neck and is able to throw short elbows, or has you up against the cage while you're trying to shoot a double leg and is able to throw those elbows into your temple. I mean, Jamal Hill can stay away from that and just keep it in the center of the octagon. He's going to find his openings, and he's going to put Johnny Walker down. I got Jamal Hill in this fight, winning it fairly easily. As far as the line, he's minus 225, probably up closer to minus 240 right now. If you like Walker as an underdog, he's probably plus 180, and only going up from there. But really don't think he's going to have much of a shot in this fight. I think Jamal Hill's here, and he's here to stay for a while. He's going to probably, 1 or 2 shots away, probably from a potential title shot with how thin everything is at light heavyweight. So going with Jamal Hill there, which finishes up the full card review. And now we are going to move on to our picks. So this card, again, kind of light, so we're going to start off kind of a weird way to bet it. I don't like any underdog on this card in particular. Yes, there's underdogs that have very good chances of winning on this card, but again, not for my liking. Also, not putting a lot of stock into this one, okay? Not too confident with a lot of the picks or the ones I am confident in, tend to be heavy favorites, so we got to find ways to bet this card. So we're going to do 4 2-pick parlays to get us plus money across the board. And then there's a couple of props I'm going to go over, hoping to hit at least 2 out of the 4 parlays, if not more, and then try to hit a couple of these props so we can be positive. All right, you can't expect to reel it in every card. You got to pick your shots. If you go balls to the wall every card, yeah, you might win a lot, but you're going to lose a lot. All right, at the end of the day, it's about staying positive, making money. If you only make a couple of clams, it's not the end of the day. We live to fight for another weekend, okay? If you lose a little bit of clams, same thing. You live to fight another weekend, okay? But if you lose it all because you're not confident but you're throwing up flyers, unfortunately, not much I could do for you. So here are my picks. We got 4 2-pick parlays. First one we got, I'm going to do Nicholas Motta and Pearce. Parlay them together, plus 100. Like Motta in the stand-up against Jim Miller, don't think he's going to be able to take it to the ground. I think Pearce is going to wrestle his opponent right out of the building. Next one, we got Skelly versus Bautista. Skelly and Bautista. Parlay them together. That's going to get you minus 104. That's the only play that is going to, that has a little bit of juice on it. Not a lot, minus 104. So you're pretty much going 1 unit to 1 unit on that. But that one, I think Bautista has it. Against, what was that guy's name? First fight on the card, Jay Perrin. I think Bautista has it in the bag against Jay Perrin. And then Skelly, he worries me a little bit against Striegl because with Striegl, there's always that risk that Striegl can just kind of ride you out for 3 rounds and get the win because you can just stay on top. But Striegl's not going to be that active. Skelly, I know, is active on the ground. Very cheeky submissions, changed together very awkwardly. I think he's going to give Striegl nightmares. So again, parlay them together, minus 104, 1 unit to win, basically 1 unit. Just a tad bit of juice there. Tad bit of Mott's. Tad bit of juicy juice. Anyway, moving on. Jamal Hill and Joaquin Buckley, I'm going to parlay those 2 together. Going to get plus 130. Again, I like Buckley because he has numerous ways to win against Razak Alhassan. Don't like Alhassan's gas tank. And Jamal Hill, I like him against Johnny Walker, just superior on the feet, just as athletic as Johnny Walker, and he's going to be able to find those openings. Don't think Walker has much of a shot in that fight. So plus 130, liking the looks of that. 1 to win 1.3. And then I'm going to parlay together Daukus and Onama. Again, I like Onama against Benitez. I think he's going to be able to get inside. I think he's going to be able to take the fight where he really wants and dictate the pace. Got him winning that fight in Daukus again against Jamie Pickett. Multiple ways to win, as opposed to Pickett's one path, which is knockout, and just far superior on the ground. So those are all 1 unit parlays, and so that's 4 total units right there. Moving on to the straight props, we're going to take Daukus by KO or sub. I'm going to put a half unit on that. Now that's plus 180. Maybe depending on what money comes in, it might get it at plus 200 depending on the book. But again, I really see him grinding Jamie Pickett down against the cage, working in some dirty boxing and then being able to take him down to the ground. And ultimately, I think he's going to get the sub, but I don't want to rule out the idea of him ground and pounding him out on the ground. So I'm going to take that at plus 180. The other straight prop I'm going to take, which is a really cheeky one, is that Parker Porter one I was talking about. Parker Porter by submission is plus 650. I'm going to put 0.1 or 1/10 of a unit on that, which is going to net us a little bit above a full unit in return. The reason why I'm taking this is Parker actually has 3 submissions on his record, and against Chase Sherman, he was able to get the fight to the ground. He was really heavy on top against Sherman. Baudot, no one really knows his ground game, but it doesn't, I am assuming that it's not very good because all of his fights he wants to keep it standing, and if Porter's smart, he's got to test that out at some point. I think he'd be able to get Baudot to the ground, and, Porter has, I think it's an anaconda choke on his record. If he can get into side control, maybe get a head and arm choke, or an arm triangle choke, I think that's very much on the table. He was kind of working towards that against Sherman, where he had that position where he's, snuck his arm, underneath the back of his neck and was going to start to crank on it. But I think Sherman ended up getting it back in a half guard, or, he ended up working out of it. But it looked like Porter was trying to set something up, and I think Baudot, he's pretty much going to have his way with him on the ground. I don't see Baudot being able to get back up to his feet or be able to work very well on the ground. So I think, taking a flyer on plus 650 Porter by sub, why not? Especially if it's just a 10th of a unit. And then last but not least, we always got to throw together a Hail Mary parlay. I'm going to throw some little net claims on this, not a lot of money. Only going to do 0.4 of a unit. So total with these straight props, I'm only going to be risking 1 unit total across 3 of them. But the 5-legger Hail Mary parlay for you. Got to move it over so I can see my screen. And now you see my beautiful gut. It's going to be full of nice Miller lattes later while I'm sitting down enjoying these fights. It's going to be David Onama, Jessica Rose Clark, Nicholas Motta, Kyle Daukus, and last but not least, Jamal Hill. 0.4 units. We're going to parlay those together. It's going to get you plus 721, and that's going to return you over 2 units. All right. Again, all of those fighters I like a lot. And if we can, get a little bit of lady luck on our side and they all pull through, then we're going to be swimming in it, baby. So that is the full review. Those are my picks as well for the card. Again, not financial advice. This is just what I'm doing. If you choose to tail me, you're tailing a guy who's coming off 3 consecutive weekends in the green, going on 4. So it's up to you. You make the call at the end of the day. Again, Bobby Bets Fights on Instagram. If you want to follow the boy, going to give you some bonus bare knuckle coverage on Instagram later. There's a couple of fights, just predatory matchups that bare knuckle's throwing together. It's just outrageous. There's a lot of value I see there. So I'm going to throw together some flyers. I wouldn't even call them flyers. I would say pretty solid picks for BKFC. So if you want to check that out there, follow the kid on Instagram, Bobby Bets Fights. Like, comment, subscribe down below. Like I said, as always, you can disagree with me. You can call me an idiot. Tell me why I'm an idiot. I'd be more than happy to hear you out and have a nice civil conversation with you and either respectfully disagree or I might even agree with you. Who knows? Anyway, signing off, everyone. Enjoy the fights. Bobby Bets. Peace out.